On October 12, 2008, just after sunrise, the thick Oklahoma fog still clung to the ground like a heavy blanket. It was the kind of morning where sound was swallowed, where headlights only lit a few feet ahead, where anything could hide in plain sight. At 6:17 a.m., a county road worker noticed an old Ford pickup pulled over awkwardly on the shoulder of Route 27. The engine was off, but the radio hissed with low static. The driver's door hung open, swaying gently in the wind. On the ground, a single boot, a crushed pack of cigarettes, a smear of blood across the window. The license plate identified the owner as Mark Hensley, a registered sex offender recently released from supervision. Deputies arrived expecting a struggle, but instead they found silence. No footprints, no drag marks, no tire impressions besides the truck's own. No signs of a chase or a fight. It looked like the scene of an abduction, yet not a single detail truly fit. One officer said, "It feels like a movie set, like someone placed everything here." But with no leads, the case quickly turned into whispers and fear. To understand the disappearance, detectives needed to understand the man. Mark was a loner. No spouse, no children, no close family. He worked odd jobs, moved frequently, and rarely trusted anyone. His past followed him everywhere. Every neighborhood, every job application, every introduction. Residents described him as paranoid, jumping at loud noises, avoiding crowds, looking over his shoulder even in broad daylight. One neighbor recalled him saying, "Someone's gonna come for me one day. I can feel it." So when he vanished, many believed someone finally did. But something about his life suggested he might have been planning an exit long before the foggy morning he disappeared. Investigators ran down every theory. White heavy checkmark kidnapping. White heavy checkmark vigilante attack. White heavy checkmark suicide. White heavy checkmark abandonment. White heavy checkmark retaliation from past connections. But the evidence didn't support any of it. No body, no trace, no movement on his social security, no phone activity, nothing. Months passed. Years followed. By year 8, the file had gathered dust in the basement of the Oklahoma State Bureau of Investigation. Most officers assumed he was dead, buried somewhere in the deep woods. But that was about to change. In 2021, Detective Linda Carver, known for her attention to detail, was temporarily assigned to review several old cases. She pulled Hensley's file out of curiosity. Within minutes, she spotted inconsistencies others had overlooked. The blood smear looked too clean and deliberate, as if brushed, not smeared. The boot was lying at an angle that looked placed, not fallen. The truck's interior was spotless, too spotless. The truck was parked perfectly straight, not like someone had been forced out. "This isn't a crime scene," she muttered. "This is a stage." She reopened the case that same day. Carver requested updated financial checks. To everyone's shock, a small bank account linked to Hensley had recorded tiny deposits over the past 13 years. Amounts too small to trigger suspicion, but too consistent to be accidental. $60, $25, $100, $80, month after month, year after year. Someone was keeping this account alive. Carver traced the withdrawals, slowly forming a pattern that led her across state lines to a remote New Mexico town called Sagebrush Hills. Population, 1,200. Businesses, 9. Secrets, plenty. Locals described a man named Daniel Holt. Quiet, reserved, always working. He lived in an aging trailer at the edge of town, drove an old sedan, and worked as a mechanic. Paid mostly in cash. Never caused trouble. When Carver saw him for the first time, her stomach tightened. The resemblance was undeniable. For 4 days she watched him. He left home before sunrise. He avoided crowds. He flinched at police sirens. He used gloves while working, rarely exposing his hands. He never spoke more than necessary. He acted like someone who feared being recognized. But the smoking gun came unexpectedly. At a hardware shop register, he pulled out a leather keychain. The same unique keychain Hensley had the day he disappeared, documented in old crime scene photos. Carver whispered, That's him. With a local deputy and 2 Oklahoma officers, Carver executed a quiet, early morning approach to Holt's trailer. She knocked. A long pause, shuffling inside. Then the door opened. He looked older, thinner, more tired, but unmistakably the same man who vanished 13 years earlier. "Mark Hensley," Carver said. His face fell. His shoulders sagged. "You found me," he whispered. He didn't fight, didn't deny. He simply surrendered, as if he'd been waiting for this moment for years. Inside the interrogation room, Hensley finally explained everything. He had purchased blood from a butcher shop. He staged the truck scene at dawn to avoid witnesses. He planned the details for months. He walked 5 miles to meet a trucker who took him west. He built his new identity piece by piece, job by job. He lived with constant fear of discovery. When asked why, he gave the answer Carver least expected. "I didn't run because of what I did. I ran because of who I was. I couldn't live inside my own skin anymore. No one abducted him. No one harmed him. The entire crime scene was staged." He lived freely for 13 years under a false identity. Ironically, his downfall came from the one thing he forgot to sever: a tiny bank account he kept for just in case. 13 years on the run, destroyed by the smallest digital footprint. Carver closed the case with a heavy but satisfied exhale. "You ran from everyone," she said, "but you couldn't outrun yourself."